two blue cities in red states adopt weird official flags for their cities. Also, real IDs were made mandatory yesterday. Which states are good at the compliance and which states aren't? Whether or not you like the idea, this is actually fascinating. And lastly, Joe Biden is back, baby. The guy that the Democrats say, please stop talking, made an appearance on The View, and you have to see it. All that and more coming up on this episode of Turning Point Tonight. My name is Jobob. Thanks so much for tuning in. Together, we are charting the course of America's cultural comeback. This is Turning Point Tonight. Now, before we get to any of those stories in our fantastic panel, we want to get to these Columbia protests. I call them riots, but some people have different vernacular. The riots at Columbia took place yesterday again, because we've all seen what had happened the last several months and several semesters at Columbia. This time, they took over a library, but there is a hilarious twist. About 100 students stormed into the library. They spray painted on some of the walls. They had their flags. They had their keffiyehs. They had their bullhorns, and they made speeches and all that sort of stuff. They stormed into this library, and hilariously and smartly, the campus security just locked the door behind them. One of the biggest problems that you have in these riots is figuring out who the people are, especially with their masks, and then finding them and arresting them. In this particular case, they all effectively arrested themselves. They got locked in this library building and then started chanting, "Let us out! Let us out!" which is just as hilarious as it gets. And to compile it even further, the campus security made an announcement saying, hey, we're going to let you guys all out. Just have your IDs ready if you go to school here. And if you don't, still have an ID ready. They were then perp walked out of the building, again, having arrested themselves. I think the main takeaway is this. All riots should be in confined spaces. I'm talking to you, Antifa. The next time Antifa riots, join us, comrades, as we take down this corrupt institution. Join our protest in this jail. I think that's how we should do all riots going forward, and probably be a lot easier on the police when it's all said and done, especially if they're committing crimes like vandalism and taking over areas where they shouldn't be. Here to comment on that and so much more is Titus Ellis Smith, a cultural commentator and the host of Nightly Scroll, Hayley, Caronia. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Titus, I want to start with you here. The rioting culture around the country is gotten out of hand the last couple of years. I don't think that's really a surprise to anyone. Maybe should we give some directions now? Should we say, hey, all of you guys confine in this particular space where we could easily lock the doors and make sure we know who you are? The administration at Columbia said, hey, you guys can leave if you show us your ID, which I think is hilarious. Is this how we should promote riots going forward?
No, I think it's really stupid. I don't understand the purpose of rioting. You can totally, if you have a strong belief on or opinion on something, I think you have every right to protest it. But I don't understand this like unhinged, wild behavior to try and prove a point or prove something's wrong. You end up looking like the enemy. You end up looking like you're in the wrong every single time, and it just makes people. It just creates this huge like atmosphere of just negativity. And I don't understand why they do it or why they think it's fruitful. And nothing ever good comes of it. So no, I don't think it's stupid. I think it's insane.
Yeah, unless they effectively are destroying property and we need to arrest them anyway, so we might as well just have them riot in a particular place. But Hayley brings up a good point. I guess I don't know whose mind is changed by any of this, right? You see, a bunch of people have more fond memories of the riot or the protests in the 60s, whether or not you agreed with them. You kind of understood, okay, these people are peaceful, they're demonstrating what they want to have happen, and maybe that might have changed some minds. That is not the case of what's going on now. Are they making a difference, or is this just, I don't know, FAFO type situation for all of these people?
No, they're not making a difference at all. And I'm going to go a step further. You might say that you don't understand why people are rioting. I will respect your right to protest, but I actually don't understand why people protest really at all. I don't think that there's any point to it. You garner a lot of attention, but the attention isn't even positive for the most part, especially when it's these protests that are organized by the left and organizations that are dangerous like Antifa. When you go in and you destroy personal property that is not yours, you have lost me. I no longer respect what you were talking about, what you were fighting for. They think that they're the Rosa Parks of modern day, but they are not. They are a sad excuse for protesters.
I feel like this is almost like a double reverse type of scenario because the protesters or rioters in this case don't actually get people to their side and instead they repel people. I would like to encourage it. All of you folks get out there and do your best so that people will look at that and go, oh, shoot, yeah, maybe the conservatives are right in this particular instance. Transitioning here in a kind of just another twist of enormous and gigantic irony. We covered the story a while ago of Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, who issued a bunch of civil lawsuits against Trump's businesses in which there were no victims and nobody was actually complaining. But she said, I felt wrong personally, and my goal was to get Trump. It was a whole fraudulent case, and it played itself out the way it played itself out. But news to a bunch of people, there was some internal investigations at the federal level saying, hey, this lady that was accusing President Trump of fraud actually also committed fraud, at least it looks like, allegedly, and falsified some documents. She said that her dad was her husband in order to get a loan approved in the early 90s, and then later on, she said, hey, this house in Virginia is my primary residence, even though the New York Constitution says the Attorney General has to live in New York, so that was also falsified. One of the, I guess, new developments in this, the FBI has officially launched an investigation into it, and a not great part about this is, unfortunately, the taxpayer actually might be on the hook for her defense. Hayley, the New York law says that she possibly could be able to tap into a $10 million fund to cover any reasonable attorney fees and expenses incurred as a part of the Trump administration's investigation into her. You think that's going to outrage New Yorkers that are having to cover for this alleged fraudster?
New Yorkers who have their head, screwed on straight. Sure. I'm glad that I don't live there anymore. I lived in New York for 7 years, New York City for 7 years. And I couldn't have been happier to leave. It's a poop hole, if you will. And I think with Letitia James, if you go to her X page and you search "No one is above the law," you'll see that she used to post on X about it quite a bit when it had to do with President Trump. But she set the standard that if you can go against your political opponents, then let the games begin. I also want to say that Democrats seem to have a daddy issue problem. So we've seen this with President Joe Biden showering with his daughter, and Ilhan Omar claiming that her brother is her husband, that they're married now. And on these falsified documents, Letitia James said that her father was her husband. So I don't know, is there a tie here? Is there something that I'm not understanding? Republicans don't seem to claim that their dads are their husbands.
That's a good point. That was what I was going to ask, Titus. Are we burying the lead here? Is it fraud, or is there some weird incestuous thing going on in the James household? And they were actually being honest. I don't even know. I don't even think that's better, right? Okay, so you weren't lying, but you married your dad. Is that what's happening here, or is it fraud, in your opinion?
I think if they knew that she was in an incestuous relationship, she probably wouldn't be in her position right now. You couldn't trust her judgment. Why are you married to your dad? That's kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, it's so funny how all these people, they always project all these things on other people, and then the skeletons in their closet come out later. It's like, oh, you literally did what you accused someone else of. That's insane. And what's weird is you being in that public position with social media, with these internet investigators, they're gonna find out what you did at some point. So why would you go out of your way to make a big name for yourself attacking someone when you're accused of the thing you're attacking them of?
That's what I've never understood that. We have the internet. It's not really that difficult to find, hey, you said this 6 months ago, now you're saying this. What happened? Do you think we live in the 80s where something aired on TV and it was just off into the ether and never existed anymore?
Right.
We have Google. We can search things. Titus and Hayley will be back after the break to discuss Biden's return to the mainstream. Honestly, I hope we see more of it, because the more that guy talks, I think the more we're going to win. Don't go away. We'll be right back after the break.